I overheard my wife telling her sister to baby trap her boyfriend. Months later, she got pregnant and engaged. So I showed him the security footage at the engagement party. I overheard my wife telling her sister to baby trap her new boyfriend. Months later, she announced her pregnancy and got engaged. So I showed him the security camera footage of their conversation at the engagement party. He called off the wedding. My wife Kelsey and her sister Amber are close. Too close. They tell each other everything. They scheme together, they plan together, and they treat the men in their lives like game pieces on a board they're both playing. I've known this for years. I've watched Kelsey coach Amber through 3 relationships like a chess match. When to text back, when to cry, when to threaten to leave. It was always strategy, never real feeling. 7 months ago, I overheard a conversation that crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I was in the garage working on a shelf unit. Kelsey and Amber were in the kitchen. They didn't know I was home because I'd parked on the street. Our security camera system records audio in the common areas of the house. It's for package theft and safety. Kelsey knows about it. She just forgot. Amber had started dating a guy named Russ about 2 months earlier. Russ seemed like a decent guy. Quiet, hardworking, owned a landscaping business. He'd come to a few dinners and I liked him. He treated Amber well and didn't seem to have a hidden agenda. Amber's hidden agenda was another story. In the kitchen, Amber said she wasn't sure Russ was going to commit. He hadn't said I love you yet. He was taking things slow. She was getting impatient. Kelsey said, then speed it up. Amber said, how? Kelsey said, stop taking your pill. Don't tell him. Get pregnant and he'll propose within a month. He's the type. Old-fashioned. He won't walk away from a kid. I stopped what I was doing in the garage. I stood there holding a drill and listened to my wife calmly instruct her sister to deceive a man into fatherhood. Amber laughed and said, you think it'll work? Kelsey said, it worked for half the women I know. Just don't tell him until you're far enough along that it's too late to question it. They moved on to another topic after that. I went back to the shelf. That night I checked the security camera footage. The entire conversation was recorded. Audio clear as day. I saved the file to my phone and a backup drive. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't even know if Amber would go through with it, but I kept it. 4 months later, Amber announced she was pregnant. Russ looked happy but overwhelmed. He proposed 2 weeks after the announcement, just like Kelsey predicted. An old-fashioned guy who wouldn't walk away from a kid. The engagement party was at Amber's apartment. 30 people, champagne, a cake that said Russ and Amber forever. I watched Russ shake hands and accept congratulations with this look on his face like his life had changed overnight, because it had, just not the way he thought. I spent 2 weeks deciding what to do. Part of me wanted to stay out of it. It wasn't my relationship, it wasn't my life. But I kept thinking about Russ standing in that kitchen holding a glass of champagne, smiling, not knowing that the biggest decision of his life had been made for him in a conversation he was never supposed to hear. I couldn't let it go. On the night of a smaller follow-up dinner at my house, I pulled Russ aside. I said, I need to show you something. You're not going to like it. He looked confused. I played the recording on my phone. I watched his face go from curious to blank to something I've never seen on another person before. It wasn't anger. It was the look of someone who just realized the ground they were standing on wasn't real. He listened to the whole thing. My wife's voice, her sister's laugh, the plan, the pill, the timeline, everything. He put his drink down and said, how long have you had this? Since it was recorded. 7 months. He said, why are you showing me now? Because you're about to marry someone who tricked you into becoming a father, and you deserve to know that before you sign a marriage certificate. He walked back into the dinner. He didn't say a word to anyone. He found Amber in the living room and said, we need to talk. Outside. They were on the porch for 20 minutes. I could hear Amber crying through the door. When Russ came back inside, he grabbed his jacket, looked at me and said, thank you. He left. He called off the engagement the next day. Amber showed up at my house screaming at me. She said I destroyed her life. Kelsey turned on me too. She said I violated her privacy. She said the cameras were for security, not for spying. I said, you told your sister to baby trap a man in our kitchen. You knew the cameras were there. That's not spying. That's evidence. Kelsey and I are in a rough place. She's furious. She says I betrayed her sister. She says I had no right to interfere. She sleeps on the far side of the bed and hasn't touched me in 3 weeks. I know this might end our marriage. I've already thought about that, but I think about Russ too. A man standing in a room full of people celebrating a life that was built on a lie. A man who would have signed a marriage certificate and raised a child never knowing how that child came to exist. He deserved the truth. I gave it to him. What happens next is everyone else's problem.